Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. My fiancée brought her ex to my birthday dinner. When he gave her flowers, she made a comment that ruined everything. I blew out the candles, made a wish, and left. The next day, she panicked, begging me to undo what I did. My name's Derek. I'm 28, and for the past 5 years, I've been running my own physical security consulting firm. I started small, like in my garage small, installing basic alarm systems, working long nights with barely enough clients to pay for tools. But I kept grinding, and over time, my business grew into something real. These days, we're the go-to experts for high-end surveillance setups and access control systems. Our clients range from millionaires with mansion estates in the suburbs to sleek corporate headquarters downtown, places where it really matters who gets in and out. 2 years ago, I met Melody. She was 26 at the time. We met at the grand opening of a craft brewery, the kind of place with overpriced IPAs, guys in bow ties talking about hops like they were fine wine, and awkward networking conversations that made you wish you'd stayed home. I wasn't there for the beer. Tyler dragged me along. But then I saw her. Melody stood out. Sharp suit, sharper eyes. You could tell just by the way she carried herself, confident, ambitious. She was going places. I found out she was a marketing executive at a mid-sized tech company. 10 minutes into talking with her, I forgot every sarcastic remark I had planned about hipster beers and artisan pretzels. We clicked, and that rarely happens for me. Let me give you a sense of the people who matter in this story. First, there's Tyler, my best friend since college. By day, he's an IT guy. By night, he's a stand-up comedian with a sense of humor that should come with a warning label. From the moment he met Melody, he nicknamed her Queen of Keynote. I asked him why, and he said, "Bro, she makes presentations for everything. If you asked her where to get lunch, she'd bring a pie chart." And he wasn't wrong. She once said to me, "Honey, I prepared a quick slide deck with a cost-benefit analysis of our weekend plans." And she had 3 slides, color-coded, with transitions. Then there's Chloe, my older sister, criminal defense attorney, fiercely protective. She has this sixth sense for spotting someone's hidden motives. At Melody's first dinner with my family, Chloe pulled me aside in the kitchen, wine glass in hand, and said, "Derek, she's always working an angle. Be careful." I brushed it off at the time. Thought she was just being overly skeptical. Can't forget my dog, Rocky. He's 3, golden retriever, loyal to a fault and about as coordinated as a wind-up toy on a staircase. One time he got his head stuck in a cereal box and just accepted it as his new life. I found him 20 minutes later, happily waddling around with his cardboard helmet like it was a crown. Natalie's also part of the picture. We were friends back in college. She's a personal trainer now, could probably bench press me, but still tells the worst dad jokes you've ever heard. We'd always been just friends, nothing more. But, yeah, her role in this story shifts a bit later. And then there's Brittany, Melody's younger sister. If Melody ever seemed a little sharp or condescending, Brittany was her on steroids. Arrogant, entitled, treated service staff like dirt. I still remember her marching up to a coffee counter one day and saying, "This foam isn't Instagrammable. Fix it." Everything negative about Melody, Brittany had it worse. Now, here's the part that really should have set off every alarm I'd ever installed. From the beginning, Melody constantly talked about her ex-boyfriend, Jason. They dated for 3 years. According to her, the relationship ended because he just couldn't commit. Translation, he dodged a bullet. And from the way she talked, she never got over him. Jason this, Jason that. Jason got promoted. Jason bought a Tesla. Jason's mom was in the hospital. It was all about him. Tyler even started keeping a tally during our group dinners. No joke, he'd bring a notepad and mark every time Melody mentioned Jason. His record? 23 mentions in one night. After the 20th one, Tyler set his drink down and said, "Bro, that guy is more present in your relationship than you are." Everyone laughed except me. Chloe didn't bother with jokes. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "She's using you as a placeholder while she waits for him to come back. You'll see." At the time, I brushed it all off. Yeah, the Jason thing was weird, but everything else seemed fine. We didn't live together, but we might as well have. We spent most of our time at my house or her downtown apartment. I'd bought my place 4 years earlier after landing some big contracts, nothing fancy, but it was mine. It had enough space for a home office, a decent kitchen, and a backyard where Rocky could chase squirrels like it was a full-time job. Speaking of Rocky, that dog absolutely adored Melody. Couldn't get enough of her. He'd lose his mind the second he heard her voice. Tail wagging, paws scrambling, ball in his mouth like, "Please, goddess of snacks, throw this." Thing is, Rocky's a terrible judge of character. This is the same dog who once tried to befriend a raccoon that was clearly about to claw his face off. He just stood there, wagging, while the raccoon hissed like a demon. So yeah, Melody won over Rocky. But even he couldn't sniff out what was coming. The first major red flag slapped me in the face when Melody's company needed a security system upgrade. This is literally what I do, it's my bread and butter. So I offered. Professional rates, Melody. I'll treat your office like any other client. She smiled. Of course, baby. I trust you. Big mistake. What should have been a straightforward walkthrough turned into a 3-hour ordeal. She turned it into a presentation. Not mine, hers. She brought out charts, graphs, PowerPoint slides with buzzwords like brand synergy and cross-platform alignment. One slide even had my company's logo in a slightly altered font. She said she was trying to streamline our visual language. I stood there thinking, is she pitching my own company to me? Still, I went through with it. Did the job. Flawless install. Fair price. Problem solved, or so I thought. That's when she started meddling. First, it was small things. A tweak to my website. Just making it pop more, she said. Then she added her email to all client communications. She even signed off on invoices. With both our names. One day, I pulled her aside and said, Melody, I appreciate the help, but this is my business. You can't just insert yourself like that. She gave me this polished smile, the kind she probably uses in boardrooms, and said, Derek, I'm optimizing your brand presence for maximum market penetration. This is how you scale. It sounded like she was pitching to investors. I told Chloe about it later. She didn't hesitate. She's treating your company like she bought it. Soon she'll want equity. And a company car. Tyler was less diplomatic. She's staging a hostile takeover of your life, one slide deck at a time. I laughed it off at the time. But they weren't wrong. The masterstroke came in October right before my birthday. Melody said she wanted to organize a networking experience. Not a birthday party. A networking experience. She booked this pretentious restaurant downtown. One of those places where they serve you 3 asparagus spears for $40 and call it deconstructed spring greens. A place where the waiters glare at you if you mispronounce the wine. The guest list was typical. Tyler, Chloe, who even flew in from New York just to witness the spectacle, and a few others. Then, a day before the dinner, Melody dropped the bomb. I was at my desk, reviewing some security footage for a client when she said casually, oh, and I invited Jason too. I froze. Rewound what she said in my head. Jason? Your ex? She nodded, sipping her green juice. Yes, but we're just friends now. Besides, he has incredible connections in the tech world. I didn't even know what to say. She kept going. This could transform your business. She used the word transform to justify inviting her ex to my birthday dinner. And then, like an afterthought, she added, Brittany is also coming from Springfield. She's really looking forward to meeting everyone. Brittany, who had ignored my existence for the last 2 years, was now suddenly really looking forward to celebrating my birthday. I stared at my phone in disbelief for a second, then called Chloe. No way was I dealing with this without backup. She answered on the first ring. Let me get this straight, she said, already in full lawyer mode. She invited her ex-boyfriend to your birthday dinner and is pitching it as a business opportunity. And her sister, the one who treats you like furniture, is now your biggest fan. I didn't even have to respond. There was a pause. Then Chloe's tone dropped, low and surgical. Brother, this woman thinks you're a fool. She's up to something. And you're the only one who doesn't see it coming. I should have canceled. I knew that. Every part of me was screaming that this was headed somewhere bad. But I didn't cancel. Because part of me, maybe the most bruised and tired part, was curious. Curious to see how far Melody would actually go. So I said, let's do it. It could be instructive. There was a beat of silence on Chloe's end. Then she laughed. Oh, I'll be front row for this train wreck. The night of the dinner, I knew something was off the second I saw her. Melody had been on the phone all day laughing. Not her usual clipped, performative laugh either. This was different. Softer. Intimate. It made my skin crawl. The restaurant? Exactly what I expected. Dishes described as culinary narratives. A wine list that looked like a doctoral thesis. You needed a credit check to order a cocktail. We had a table reserved for 10. Chloe insisted on coming with me, and thank God she did. She walked in dressed like she was about to cross-examine the chef crisp suit, no-nonsense face. She sat at the far end of the table, positioned perfectly to observe everything. The first to arrive was Tyler. He scanned the menu, blinked twice, and leaned in. Bro, are they seriously charging $30 for a side of mac and cheese? He glanced around, lowering his voice. I hope your business insurance covers public humiliation. One by one, the rest of the group filtered in. My business partner Javier, Tom and his wife, a couple of friends we regularly hung out with. The only ones missing were, of course, Jason and Brittany. But Melody? She was glued to her phone, checking it like she was managing air traffic. Every 10 seconds, lighting up with a little flicker of anticipation. Then, 25 minutes after our reservation time, the show began. Jason walked in like he was the star of some low-budget rom-com. Button-down shirt open at the collar. Confident smirk. A bouquet of purple dahlias in hand. He made a beeline straight to Melody, didn't even glance in my direction. Me, the birthday boy. He stopped right in front of her and smiled. For you, beautiful. Happy spring. Let me remind you it was late October in Chicago. There were frost warnings in the forecast. But this clown was talking about spring like we lived in Rio. And Melody? Her face lit up like it was Christmas morning. She reached for the flowers like he'd just brought her a winning lottery ticket. Purple dahlias. Did you know they're my favorite? You always had better taste. How sweet. That's what she said. Then Melody turned to the table, holding the bouquet like a prize she'd just won on a game show. Look what Jason brought me. Isn't he incredibly thoughtful? The silence that followed was brutal. Chloe, mid-sip of her water, froze. You could see the exact moment her brain processed what had just been said. She lowered her glass without finishing the sip, eyes sharp. Tyler? His jaw dropped, mouth open, like he'd just witnessed a slow-motion car crash and couldn't decide whether to scream or laugh. Everyone else exchanged glances, that uncomfortable, panicked kind, unsure whether to intervene or crawl under the table and pretend none of it was happening. Jason, of course, barely gave me a nod. Happy birthday, man. Thanks for letting me come. He said it like he was doing me a favor. Then he sat right across from Melody like it was his dinner, his table, his spotlight. Chloe leaned toward me, voice low but pointed. Is this really happening? I didn't even get the chance to respond because just then, in walked the final piece of this performance. Brittany. 15 minutes after Jason, she made her grand entrance like she'd been waiting for a cue. You could smell her from the door, so heavily perfumed it felt like someone had dropped a bottle of antiseptic in a flower shop. Ugh, parking here is impossible, she groaned, loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. Then, spotting the flowers in Melody's hands, she didn't miss a beat. She rushed over, snatched a few stems for her own photo op, and posed like she'd orchestrated the entire moment. From that point on, the night slipped into something surreal, like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. I was seated at the head of the table, supposedly the guest of honor, watching my girlfriend have a reunion dinner with her ex-boyfriend with an audience. They laughed. They shared inside jokes. They reminisced like it was a private catch-up session and the rest of us were invisible extras. Remember that weekend in Napa when it rained? Jason asked. Of course, Melody replied, laughing. We holed up in that tiny wine bar all day. Then Brittany jumped in, as if directing a scene. The photos from that day, you two looked like a postcard. I glanced down the table. Chloe was literally taking notes. No exaggeration, she had pulled out a pen and a small notebook from her purse, her expression focused like she was gathering evidence. Tyler kicked me under the table. I looked at him, and he gestured sharply, mouthing, "What the hell is this?" What was happening wasn't just rude. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a planned humiliation. And I realized I didn't have to sit there and be part of the show. But the dinner dragged on for another excruciating hour. Jason hijacked every conversation. He spoke with that fake expertise about everything: wine pairings, vacation spots, modern art, as if he'd done a TED Talk on each topic. And Melody? She looked at him like he was delivering profound wisdom, hanging on every word. Like she wasn't seated next to the man she was supposed to be in love with, she was entranced by someone else. Brittany filmed everything. Her phone constantly pointed at them, like she was making a documentary. I sat there, silently, watching my partner have a date with her ex. On my birthday, with our friends watching in awkward discomfort. And then came the cake. The waiter brought it out, candles lit. And guess who started singing first? Jason. Happy birthday to you. Like he was the host, the ringleader of this whole farce. Melody finally put her arm around me, the first physical contact she'd made with me all night. It was stiff, mechanical, like she'd remembered at the last second. Oh right, I'm supposed to be with this guy. Make a wish, love, she said. I looked at the candles, and in that instant everything made sense. It wasn't just about Jason's presence. It wasn't about purple dahlias, or wine bars, or awkward birthday songs. It was about a woman who truly believed that she could publicly humiliate me in front of my friends, and I would just sit there, smile, and take it. What no one at that table knew was that I had another plan for the night. A much bigger one. Melody and I had been engaged for 4 months. I had planned to announce our wedding date that very night. I'd even thought about making a toast something heartfelt, something hopeful. Her parents had already paid $15,000 to cover half the venue and catering. My share was already on deposit. The ring? It was in the inside pocket of my jacket. Not because I planned to propose again, we were already engaged, but because I'd wanted to upgrade it, make it more special. Funny how things change. I blew out the candles, slowly, took a breath, then stood. Actually, I said, raising my glass. I have an announcement to make. Melody turned to me, smiling the fake kind, ready to pretend we were a couple again for the camera. Melody and I said calmly, will not be getting married. You could hear a pin drop. Her smile didn't just vanish, it shattered. Her face changed colors like a slow, spiraling panic. What are you talking about? She snapped. I didn't respond to her. I turned to Jason instead. Jason, since you seem to be the host tonight, the bill's on you. I nodded, holding his confused stare. Thanks for organizing my birthday dinner, and congratulations on whatever's happening here. Jason's face fell. Wait, what? I didn't. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and turned back to him. Oh, and Jason, I added, tapping the screen. 5276. That's the code to get into my house, right? On the keypad. He froze. Blinked twice. I nodded. Pretty clever. The table erupted. Tyler nearly fell out of his chair. No way. He shouted loud enough that half the restaurant turned their heads. Chloe leaned back slowly in her chair, her smile measured and satisfied like a judge handing down a verdict she'd been waiting years to deliver. She said. This is glorious. Melody shot up. Her fake serenity melted instantly, replaced by open panic. You can't just cancel the wedding like this. Watch me, I said, cool and quiet. I looked around the room, then squarely at her. I have months of security footage of you two having your little reunions in my house while I was away on business. The wedding, I said, each word deliberate, is officially canceled. Chloe stood too, all business now, shoulders squared. Recordings, she said, eyes gleaming. This is fascinating. Jason stood up too, trying to salvage anything. It's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like, I shot back. You've been playing house in my home while I worked to pay for that ring. I pointed to my jacket pocket. But hey, if you like the place so much, maybe you can start paying the mortgage. Brittany was frozen, eyes wide, mouth literally hanging open like someone had unplugged her brain. You were engaged? She stammered. And when were you planning on telling us? I pulled the ring box out, placed it on the table. We were going to announce it today, I said, my voice level. Then I smiled. Just a little. Just enough. Surprise. Pause. Plans changed. I turned back to Jason. He'll cover the dinner bill. Melody already has her flowers. And I gestured with a half shrug. I have to cancel some wedding vendors. I raised my glass again. Thanks, everyone, for coming to celebrate my birthday. It's been truly instructive. Chloe grabbed her purse with military precision. And I have some fascinating legal points about infidelity and rights over shared assets to discuss with my dear brother later, she added as she stood. I turned, walking out of the restaurant. Behind me, I heard Jason trying to explain to the waiter, voice rising. I need to make a call. This is urgent. I'll get the money. And Melody? Screaming. You can't do this. You have no right to dissolve an engagement without my consent. Outside, Tyler and Chloe followed close behind. Chloe was beaming, like glowing. That, she said, her voice almost ecstatic, was the most elegant public execution I've ever witnessed. She paused, then added, Jason is crumbling over the bill, and your ex-fiancée looks like she just watched her world fall apart. My phone was already buzzing with messages from Melody. Dozens of them. Walls of text. Apologies, explanations, half-baked excuses. But I'd already made up my mind. It was time for the real show to begin. That night, I did what I should have done months earlier, a complete analysis of my home security system. Tyler showed up with pizza. Chloe brought drinks and her ever-present legal pad. She tossed it on the table with a grin. This, she said, cracking open a pen, is juicier than any case I've handled in months. And I plan to document everything. Rocky was thrilled. He kept bringing us one of his toys every 5 minutes, tail wagging, eyes bright, convinced we were having the best party ever, completely oblivious to the fact that we were about to uncover a betrayal captured in high definition. My house had one of our company's most comprehensive security packages. Cameras on every access point, motion sensors, smart locks with access logs, the works. When Melody and I had gotten serious, I'd shown her how everything worked, where the cameras were, what to do if she got locked out. Even gave her access. Security, I told myself. She stayed over a lot. It made sense at the time. What I discovered that night was so much worse than I'd imagined. Jason had been coming to my house every single time I traveled for work, which, on average, was twice a month. The footage didn't lie. There he was, Jason pulling into my driveway. There she was, Melody opening the door with a smile. Or better yet, Jason entering his own code, 5276. He typed on the keypad like he owned the place. He wasn't just visiting. He was living out some kind of domestic fantasy in my house. They used my Netflix account, ate my food, slept in my bed, walked my dog. Tyler stared at the screen and said, This is surreal. He pointed, squinting. Dude, he's wearing your college sweatshirt and giving Rocky treats. What the hell? Rocky, for the record, was happily destroying a tennis ball on the carpet, blissfully unaware that his official treat distributor was the villain in the story. Chloe's tone dropped. Cold. Calculating. This isn't just adultery, she said. This is trespassing. She gave him access to your property without your consent. You could build a solid civil case out of this. We kept reviewing the logs. Jason's code 5276 had been used 17 times in just 3 months. Always when I was out of town. And not just quick visits. The camera logs showed him arriving with luggage. Hours and hours of footage. Inside, they cooked together. Watched movies. Cuddled on the couch. Acting like a perfectly happy couple in my living room. That night, I revoked all guest codes except mine. I changed every system password. Every login. Then I sent Melody a single text. Just one. A screenshot. Jason, entering the front door. Timestamp. 3 weeks ago. The same week I'd been installing a system for a commercial client in Denver. Her response came instantly. We need to talk. I replied with a single gif of Samuel L. Jackson saying, nope. Chloe nodded in approval, already flipping pages in her notebook. Professional advice, she said. Don't respond anymore. Document everything. Let her hang herself. The next step was severing professional ties. I had installed the security system for Melody's company personally, so I sent a formal email to her boss explaining that, for personal reasons, I would be reassigning Melody's account to another member of my team. That's what I wrote in the email. Calm. Professional. No emotion. I CC'd my director of operations so everything would be documented. No ambiguity. No room for misinterpretation. The implied message? Clear as glass. Your employee used a professional relationship to facilitate a personal betrayal, and I no longer feel comfortable working in that environment. That was checkmate number 1. But then came the masterstroke. My real estate investment. 3 months earlier, I'd bought an apartment as a rental property purely as a business move. A contact had offered me the deal. Numbers looked solid. Good area. It just so happened to be in the same building where Melody lived. Not on purpose. Just an irony so sharp it could cut glass. I never told her the address. Just casually mentioned that I'd purchased a rental property. Mine was 3F. Hers? 3B. Same floor. Different lives. 1 week before the birthday disaster, my tenant in 3F had reported a leak in the bathroom ceiling. I asked my property manager, Marcus, to handle it. He tried, but the tenant's schedule kept conflicting. Until now. So I messaged Marcus again. That leak in 3F needs urgent attention. It could affect other units on the floor. He replied almost immediately. An emergency inspection has already been coordinated for tomorrow. Building management will check neighboring apartments as a precaution. Tyler raised his glass when I told him. To the most poetic coincidence in the history of revenge. Chloe raised hers too. And to karma, which, coincidentally, also has a law degree. I shook my head. Smirked. It's not revenge. It's responsible property management. 2 days after the birthday explosion, I was at Chloe's apartment helping her move furniture around. She'd been talking about rearranging her space for months and finally decided to tackle it. Then came a pounding at the door. Not a knock. A pound. Chloe peered through the peephole and turned to me with a slow, satisfied grin. Look who's here, she said. Your ex-fiancée. And it looks like she hasn't slept since the restaurant disaster. She opened the door. There stood Melody. Makeup smudged. Hair wild. Eyes wide. Red-rimmed. Frantic. She looked like she'd walked through a storm emotionally and literally. Where is he? She demanded, trying to force her way inside. Chloe didn't budge. She's 5 feet 8 inches, does CrossFit, and radiates courtroom authority. Melody bounced right off her like a racquetball hitting concrete. He's not here, Chloe said calmly. But I am. And we have things to clarify. I need to talk to him, Melody insisted. About the wedding. He can't just cancel everything like this. Chloe let out a short, disbelieving laugh. That specific kind of laugh that comes right before she destroys someone in 5 words or less. Of course he can, she said. That's what happens when you cheat. Cause and effect. Ring a bell. Melody's face went crimson. You don't understand our relationship. Chloe cut her off. I understand you brought your lover to his birthday. I understand you gave that lover access to his house without his permission. And I understand you're so arrogant you think being unfaithful comes with financial compensation. Melody sputtered. Well, it's not that simple. Chloe raised an eyebrow. Of course it is. You cheated. You got caught. You lost. The end. That's when Melody launched her favorite performance, manipulative crying. My parents already paid for everything. We lost $15,000. Chloe didn't flinch. She stepped forward, voice shifting deeper, sharper, courtroom steel. Maybe your parents should have invested that money in teaching you values, instead of paying for a cheater's wedding. Melody's voice cracked. You're just as cold as he is. Heartless. Chloe folded her arms. Wrong. I'm not like my brother. She pointed behind her, toward where I stood, silently watching. He was kind. He gave you years of his life. Job connections. A ring you never deserved. Then she looked at me directly. Her voice quieter now. Fiercer. Me? From day one. I saw what you were. I warned him. But he's too noble to listen to his older sister. Chloe's voice was calm, but sharp enough to slice through Melody's crocodile tears. I don't dislike you on a whim. It's because you're an opportunist, she continued, arms folded across her chest, tone like ice. You used his professional expertise, his marketing knowledge, his house for your affairs, and his generosity to finance your lifestyle. She stepped closer. Melody flinched. You are literally a parasite in designer clothes. Melody broke down, finally. The kind of crying that was more performance than pain, but that didn't stop her from collapsing into it. But Chloe wasn't finished. Want to know what I really think of you? She didn't wait for an answer. You're pathetic, she said flatly. You had a man who loved you, who boosted your career, who planned to marry you, and you lost it all. Chloe leaned in, just enough to lower her voice, sharpen the blow. Why? For an ex-boyfriend who didn't even have the decency to pay the bill, who vanished the moment things got uncomfortable. I made a mistake, Melody sobbed. No, Chloe snapped. You made conscious choices. Over months. You chose to let Jason into my brother's house. You chose to organize that humiliation dinner. You chose to prioritize your ex over your fiancée. And now, you choose to harass his family instead of facing the consequences like an adult. Melody tried again, reaching for pity. I just want to explain. Chloe didn't even blink. Explain what? How you accidentally fell onto Jason over and over while my brother was out working his, but off to pay for your ring. How you accidentally organized a romantic reunion on his birthday. How you unintentionally decided to embarrass the best man who's ever been in your life. I stood in the kitchen, behind the wall, listening to it all, watching from a narrow sight line. Never in my life had I felt prouder of my sister. Melody tried one last move, desperation disguised as depth. Don't you understand what it means to have history with someone? Chloe's answer came like a clean cut with a razor. I understand perfectly what loyalty is. You clearly do not. She stepped aside and pointed at the door. Now get off my property before I call the police for harassment. And the next time you try to play the victim. Her voice dipped. Remember that security cameras don't lie. 3 days after that verbal demolition, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. I was in a meeting with a client installing a security system for a tech startup when the messages started. Buzz, buzz, buzz. From Melody. What did you do? There's water everywhere. The apartment's ceiling collapsed. My laptop is destroyed. All my furniture is ruined. Call me now. That was just the beginning. Soon, the complaints started rolling in, not just from Melody, but from her entire family. First, her mother. How dare you embarrass us like this? We invested in your future with her. Then, her father, more blunt, more transactional. We need to talk about financial compensation for the lost deposits. You made an impulsive decision that's costing us money. And finally, Brittany, naturally. You humiliated her in front of everyone. You owe us for this whole mess. The actual water damage, though? That was a bit more complicated. The plumber discovered a major leak in a shared pipe between my unit and Melody's. Apparently, it had been deteriorating for months, slow damage building up behind the walls. When they finally opened it up to investigate, all that hidden water gushed out like a burst dam, soaking both apartments. The building administrators had no choice. They declared both units temporarily uninhabitable for at least 4 to 6 weeks. The hardwood floors in Melody's apartment were warped beyond saving. Her furniture? Useless. The bedroom? As Tyler so eloquently put it, an expensive indoor pool, just without the luxury. While Melody waded through a literal flood, I had to navigate an emotional one. Her family came for me fast. Emails, calls, voicemails loaded with guilt and accusations. They wanted $15,000 back, the amount they had invested in the wedding venue, catering, flowers, the whole elaborate farce. Her mother, naturally, brought up the concept of breach of contract, as if we were two business executives in a boardroom, not a couple shattered by betrayal. You can't just cancel a wedding and leave us with the expense, her father said over the phone, voice cold, controlled. I didn't flinch. Of course I can, I replied calmly. That's how things work when your daughter cheats. Consider it a very expensive parenting lesson. That night, Melody called me directly. Despite everything, I picked up. I wanted to hear what she'd try next. Where am I supposed to live? She demanded immediately, like her entire crisis had been dumped on my shoulders. I kept my voice steady. As I understand it, Jason has a comfortable place. You didn't seem to mind making it yours when you had the chance. Silence. Then a sharp exhale. My parents want you to give us back the deposit money, she said. Your parents can want whatever they wish, I replied. I wanted a faithful fiancé. But we don't always get what we want. You still owe us that money, she snapped. I don't owe them anything, I said flatly, except to end this conversation. I was about to hang up, but then paused. Oh, and one more thing. I'm going to need you to return the engagement ring. What ring? She said, playing dumb. The engagement ring, I said, enunciating every syllable. The $8,000 one you're still wearing. Since there's not going to be a wedding, I need you to return it. That ring is mine. You gave it to me, she argued. I gave it to my fiancée, I corrected. You are no longer her. I'm not giving it back, she said quickly, defensively. We'll see. I ended the call and immediately dialed Chloe. Illinois law is clear, she said before I even finished the sentence. Engagement rings are conditional gifts. No marriage, no ring no matter who cancels or why. 2 days later, Melody was served with legal documents demanding its return. The irony? She couldn't afford a lawyer. After the flood, she had no emergency savings. So guess who had to pay for her legal defense? Her parents. When I told Chloe, she whistled. So let me get this straight, she said. She's homeless, being sued for the ring. Her parents lost $15,000, and Jason disappeared after stiffing her with the dinner bill. She raised her glass. This beats any lottery win. Meanwhile, Tyler was still doing his part digging into Jason's background through mutual acquaintances. And apparently, there was more rot under that polished exterior than we realized. But that revelation would come later. 2 weeks after the water disaster, I went for coffee with Natalie. She'd reached out after hearing about the birthday debacle. Just checking in. That whole thing sounded completely insane, she said, sipping her drink. Who brings flowers to their ex at someone else's birthday? We ended up talking for 3 hours. Natalie was the complete opposite of Melody. Sincere, direct, no agenda, no image maintenance. She even admitted something that caught me off guard. Honestly, I always thought Melody was self-centered. But you looked happy, and I didn't want to interfere. She looked me square in the eye. She treated you like an accessory, not a partner. Like your presence was just part of her presentation. We started spending more time together after that. At first, just friends. No expectations. But being with her felt easy. She never once tried to optimize my brand. She asked about my business and actually listened. Said my security systems were fascinating. She let me be me. Meanwhile, the lawsuit over the ring moved forward. My lawyer filed a clear claim. Return of a conditional gift. Melody's lawyer did his best to twist reality into something usable. Your Honor, he said with a straight face, my client received the ring with a reasonable expectation of marriage. My lawyer didn't even blink. And my client, she countered, had a reasonable expectation of fidelity, and expectation that was broken, repeatedly, in his own home as demonstrated by security footage. Boom. Case closed. The judge didn't need long. He ordered the immediate return of the ring, plus court costs. That meant Melody's parents had to cough up another $2,500 on top of the $15,000 already lost. When I finally got the ring back, I didn't hesitate. Took it straight to a high-end jeweler and sold it. That $8,000 turned into the best gaming setup I've ever owned. Top-tier graphics card, 4K monitor, premium sound system with subwoofers that made my walls tremble. My office became the war room. Tyler and I started hosting late-night Call of Duty marathons. Pizza, strategy, trash talk, just like college, but with more RAM and better snacks. Rocky would always lie by my chair, head on his paws, occasionally barking at explosions from the speakers like a canine veteran of digital warfare. Best investment you ever made, Tyler declared one night after a particularly glorious victory. Way better than being married to the Queen of Keynote. We laughed for what felt like the first time in a long time. But then came the real bombshell courtesy of Tyler's intelligence network. See, some of our mutual friends had been following the Melody Jason drama with the intensity of people watching a soap opera they were emotionally invested in. That's when it came out. Jason wasn't just Melody's ex. He was a married man. Had been for 2 years. His wife, Jennifer, worked for an international consulting firm, gone for months at a time, traveling between cities and countries. Jason had been leading a double life. Pretending to be single. Enjoying wine dates, security access, and birthday dinners on someone else's dime mine. The whole house of cards collapsed after that infamous birthday dinner. Apparently, when Jason paid the $450 bill, he used a shared credit card, one he and Jennifer both monitored. She called him. What's this charge at Maison Celeste? His explanation didn't add up. Jennifer went digging. She found text messages between him and Melody. Found photos in the cloud. Receipts from hotels and restaurants that contradicted every business trip he'd mentioned. 2 weeks after my birthday, Jennifer filed for divorce. She had all the ammunition she needed: evidence of adultery, misuse of marital funds, and deception. The process was swift. Jason lost the house, a huge chunk of his assets, and his reputation. He responded the only way cowards do disappeared. Blocked Melody on everything. Deleted her from social media. Moved in with a friend and vanished from her life as if she had never existed. Melody, meanwhile, had no stable place to live. After the flood, she tried crashing with Brittany, but that lasted 4 days. She's a disaster, Brittany reportedly told a friend, and not even Instagrammable. So Melody checked into an extended stay hotel which, ironically, cost almost as much as a normal apartment. She was alone, broke, and wondering how the hell her life had imploded so fast. Her parents? Done with her. Her mom's final words hit hard. "We raised you better than to leave a good man for a married guy who won't even return your calls." But the story didn't end there. 6 months after that unforgettable dinner, I married Natalie. We kept it simple. No luxury venue. No keynote speeches. Just the people who mattered. And it cost half of what Melody's wedding was projected to cost. Her parents, lovely people, welcomed me with open arms. I never had to prove anything. They just embraced me for who I was. Tyler was my best man, of course. And his speech? Unforgettable. To the bride and groom. And to all the security cameras in the world, he toasted. "May this marriage be as solid as the evidence that ended the previous relationship." The crowd roared. And yes, we included Rocky in the ceremony. He wore a tiny black tuxedo and walked down the aisle as our ring bearer. He only got distracted twice by squirrels while walking down the aisle. The photographer later showed us a perfect shot of Rocky mid-chomp, trying to eat the centerpiece flowers during the reception. Classic. Everyone was enjoying themselves, the music, the laughter, the clinking of glasses when I noticed a disturbance near the entrance. A couple of the venue's security staff were speaking firmly to someone who clearly wasn't on the guest list. I walked over, curious but cautious, and my stomach dropped the moment I saw who it was. Melody, arguing, hands waving, voice raised. Her face was flushed with frustration, and she looked frantic. Chloe must have caught sight of her too because she was suddenly at my side. "Not today. No way," she muttered. But Melody spotted me first. Her eyes locked onto mine, and she crossed the room quick, direct, and unapologetic. Every eye in the reception turned as she moved, slicing through the celebration like a storm cloud on a sunny day. "We need to talk," she said, out of breath. "It's very important." I felt Natalie squeeze my hand gently. Her voice calm, but strong. "Want me to handle it?" she asked. "No," I said quietly. "Don't worry. I'll take care of it. But don't go far." Melody stopped a foot away from me, agitated and visibly uncomfortable. Then I saw it. She was pregnant about 6 months along, from the looks of it. She wore a loose outfit that tried, unsuccessfully, to disguise the bump. "Congratulations," she said, voice tinged with bitterness. "I see you recovered quickly." "Thanks," I replied evenly. "You look different. We need to talk. In private." I looked over at Natalie, then back at Melody. "You can say whatever you want here. Natalie is my wife now." That word wife hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Melody's eyes darted around the room, clearly rattled by the number of people watching. Then she blurted it out. "I'm pregnant." I stood still. "Congratulations," I said. "I'm sure Jason will be thrilled to take responsibility." Her voice dropped. The edge softened into panic. "Jason isn't answering my calls. He's erased me from his life since the divorce." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said flatly. "And what does this have to do with me?" Then came the bombshell I half expected but still wasn't ready for. "I need your help. This baby, it could be yours." The silence was immediate, deafening. Chloe was suddenly at my side like a ghost. Natalie gripped my hand tighter. I locked eyes with Melody, stunned. "Seriously?" I asked. "You're going to do this here? At my wedding? In front of everyone? I didn't know how else to find you. So you decided to ruin my wedding with this?" I took a deep breath. My voice calm, but like steel. "Fine. Let's start with the basics then. I want a paternity test. DNA doesn't lie." Her face lost all color. I don't know if that's necessary." "Of course it is. If you're so sure the baby's mine, you shouldn't have a problem proving it." "I thought you'd want to help." "Help? With what? A child that probably isn't mine? From a woman who cheated on me for months in my own house?" "No. The only thing I'm going to help with is proving you're still the same liar you've always been." Chloe practically glowed. "I'll have the paperwork ready by tomorrow morning," she said, already making mental notes. Melody stepped back, the crowd still watching. "You're making a big mistake. When you get the results, you're going to regret this." Security finally stepped in, gently but firmly escorting her out of the building. She tried to twist back around, yelling over her shoulder, "You'll be looking for me when you realize the truth." The music didn't pick up again right away. There was that stunned, whispered buzz of a wedding hijacked. Everyone had an opinion, but no one could believe she'd actually done it. Not like this. Later, at the bar, Tyler found me. "Dude, that was insane. Do you think there's any chance?" I glanced over at Natalie, who was now laughing with Chloe like nothing had happened, and then to Rocky, who had snuck under a table and was helping himself to fallen cake scraps, blissfully unaware of the chaos. "We'll find out first thing tomorrow morning," I said, my voice steady. "But whatever happens, I already know who my real family is." The paternity test was scheduled for 9 a.m. the next morning. I didn't know what to expect. A big part of me was convinced the child wasn't mine, not with the timeline, not with her history of lies. But still, there was that small, persistent voice in the back of my mind. What if it is? Either way, I had a computer that performed like a rocket, a wife who respected me, and a dog who still thought cardboard helmets were the height of fashion. Whatever happened the next day, I'd already won. The morning of the test results arrived gray and quiet, as if even the sky understood something significant was about to be revealed. I got up early, didn't say much over breakfast. Natalie gave me a soft kiss on the cheek and said, "No matter what it says, we're solid." "You know that, right?" "I do," I replied. "That's why I'm not afraid." When I pulled into the parking lot of the lab, I saw Melody already waiting, leaning against her car with that same proud, aloof expression as if the world still revolved around her. She stood up when she saw me, but didn't say a word. We walked into the building together, but didn't acknowledge each other. Just signed the forms, gave our samples, and walked back out into the overcast morning. No drama, no pleading, just silence. 2 days later, the results landed in my inbox. "Negative. You are not the father." I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't feel relief, exactly. Not joy or anger either. What I felt was certainty. Certainty that my instincts weren't flawed, that my boundaries were justified, that my doubts were never paranoia, but warnings my heart had been screaming for months. I didn't know Melody anything, not my peace, not my money, not my guilt, and certainly not my future. Melody called within minutes. I let it ring. Then came the message. "You could still count on me." I stared at the screen, shook my head, and set the phone down without replying. Count on her? As if she still had a place in my life? No. That bridge had burned, collapsed, and sunk a long time ago. Now it was just ash in the wind. I ignored her the same way you ignore a voice from a hallway you've already walked through. A faint echo from a room that once held pain, but now it just didn't matter. In the kitchen, Natalie was humming an old tune while making tea. Rocky came barreling down the hallway, dragging a torn cardboard box with absolute purpose, like he was preparing for battle. And in my office, the startup chime of my custom-built PC greeted me like an old friend, ready to help me conquer whatever came next. Whatever Melody thought, her truth had finally come out. And this time, it left her alone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.